Welcome back to Gibbo MMA, and it is UFC Vegas 109 Fight Week. We're doing the preview here, and I guess you could definitely agree with me that we've just got to get through this card because we're all just waiting for UFC 319 DDP versus Hamzat. But, you know, there's a couple good fights on this card. I call this a preview. I call this Vegas 109 preview, but I'm starting to, still figure out these episodes and, talk about the fights, but also other stuff in MMA or non-MMA sort of stuff, sort of a broad other topics that I can go through because this card, if you got anything else planned on this weekend, you're not going to miss out much if you don't watch the UFC. And this is the content game, and so I'll still go over it. There's some good fights, but nothing too crazy on the line again like last week. Very apexy. But, just for those hardcore fans or someone that just wants to tune in and watch a couple of fights, there's someone here that I'll mention to tune in for. But yeah, we're looking at another grindy week of Apex cards, of soulless Apex fights, but it is what it is. So we've got Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez for the main event slot middleweight bout. These two guys are on a pretty decent little run. Hernandez, he's on a 7-fight win streak. And he's coming off that good win against Brandon Allen. Roman Dolidze, he's coming off that win against Marvin Vettori earlier this year, 5-round main event. Roman, he's on a 3-fight win streak. People don't know, this guy's 37 years old, Roman Dolidze. 37, and he's versing in prime 31-year-old Fluffy Hernandez. But with Roman, low fight mileage. He's got coming from that grappling jiu-jitsu background. He's Georgian. He's a moderate underdog, but with his age, he does have pretty low fight mileage. His record is 15-3, and Hernandez 14-2. So, instant first thoughts about this main event. We've got a guy who is very dangerous on the ground in Roman Dolidze, with some good power behind him versus a real grindy, durable, well-rounded guy in Anthony Hernandez, who will put the pace on you, wear you down, and eventually, try and get the submission or TKO. With Roman, they say he's a dangerous guy on the ground, but he hasn't submitted anyone in 7 years, 7 or 8 years. He hasn't submitted anyone in the UFC, so his only submissions in his MMA career has come in his first couple of pro fights. So 2017 was his last win by submission. From there, he's actually had more, most of his wins have come by TKO knockout with his hands. So he's got 8 wins by TKO knockout, 3 by submission, and 4 wins by decision. And Dolidze's never been finished. So that's what's interesting about this main event is, can Fluffy Hernandez finish Roman Dolidze? Dolidze does have cardio questions, and I can see Fluffy Hernandez finishing him in the 4th or 5th round if it gets there, just by putting it on him. I think you could see, TKO up against the cage. Whoever's reffing just steps in. But it's an interesting middleweight matchup. If we look at the rankings, Hernandez ranked 10 and Roman Dolidze ranked 9. So nothing too win or lose for each guy. Gets catapulted in this very stacked middleweight division. I'd say it's probably could be the most stacked of all time, this division, the middleweight has been. Because next week you got the title fight with DDP and Hamzat. So if either guy wins this, they're probably looking at facing like a Robert Whittaker, maybe a Adesanya, Strickland if he wasn't out. So there's no real title shot coming after this, but I'm guessing they'll be trying to get a top five guy. Um, who I'm picking to win, I got Hernandez. I think he's a favorite. I think that's pretty safe prediction. How he's going to win? Well, Delize did go 5 rounds with Marvin Vettori. Mostly a stand-up fight, so it'll be interesting to see how Delize goes once the wrestling is also involved and see how his cardio holds up. But yeah, I think Hernandez, I reckon of round 4 or 5 TKO. Hernandez, be a bit more bold with the prediction, but can Delize win? Sure, he's got that power. Um, looking at Fluffy's record, has he been knocked out? Let's have a look. I don't think he has. I think, or maybe Kevin Holland did. Yeah, he's been finished once by knockout, which came by Kevin Holland TKO, knee to the body, ground and pound. So other than that, he's just been submitted once. So he's only been finished twice, and the last time he was finished was back in 2020. So Delize, yeah, I don't think he can knock him out. Like the only chance is like a round 1 TKO, just a big powerful overhand right. I don't think Hernandez will be scared to take it to the ground in the first round while they're dry because Delize hasn't finished anyone by sub in the UFC. So yeah, where's the danger? Even though he does have the credentials, just he hasn't shown it in the UFC with those submissions. Where Hernandez could be smart is to wait until the second round to take the fight to the ground once they're a bit more sweatier, slipperier, so he can avoid getting submitted. Going down to the ground dry in round 1, you're more open to those easier submissions like the guillotine. Because I always think, don't go for the guillotine unless it's round 1, because once it's round 2, people just slide right out. So yeah, I think, pretty safe to say, that's why I'm not too up and about for this card is, it's nothing too exciting on the line. The matchups are pretty, eh, it's just no big vibes about it. But Hernandez, his last fight, he probably could have got Brandon Allen out of there, but he said something about like torn ribs, ligaments, ear infection. Believe he was on antibiotics, still toughed it out. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes coming into this more healthy. And Delize, never been finished. Powerful but can gas. We all think he's got big submission threat, but we haven't actually seen that. So, once it comes to MMA, those jiu-jitsu black belts, especially nowadays with people being so well-rounded, those specialists in the submissions, I think they're not as prominent in MMA now. And Delize has shown that, like, great submission artist, great grappler, but he's finishing blokes with his hands and hasn't submitted anyone in the UFC. So yeah, I won't spend too much more time on the main event. But I gotta definitely talk about my Aussie boy Steve Erceg. In the co-main, he's had a roller coaster, absolute roller coaster of a few weeks with opponents. He had Hun Song Park, who got pulled out to face Tatsu Taira, who he had main event last week. And then he had Alex Perez fill in, and he got pulled out. So now we got Ode Osborne. And because it's such short notice, they've made this bout now a bantamweight bout up from the flyweight. Yeah, so Steve Erceg, he did get asked to fight Tattoo Tara, but he's all the way in Perth, one of the most isolated cities, or if not the most isolated city in the world. It's like a 5 hour flight just to get to the east coast of Australia, and then from there it's like a 15, 16 hour flight just to get to the west coast of USA. So just logistics and timing, he couldn't take that main event slot last week. Otherwise, yeah, he said he's very much a yes man. He'll say yes to anything. Like we're seeing now, he said, yes to every opponent he's been given to. But he's on a 3 fight losing streak, Erceg, so he's really wanting to get this win. And the guys he's lost to have all been champions or people been in title fights. So he lost, he could have won that Pantoja fight. He was looking good. Lost decision then. Got knocked out by Kai Kara France, and then lost decision against Brandon Moreno. So again, it's still losses, and he said that in his interview with MMA Junkie, like, yeah, I've lost to good people, but at the end of the day, they're still losses. So I think he's going to be very much coming out to get get a great performance, get a great win against Ode Osborne. I would like to see Steve Erceg implement the grappling because he's fell in love with the striking, but I think he's going to have to change it up a bit, get back to the more mixing it up in the grappling. Ode Osborne, coming in on essentially a week's notice, well done to him. He's got a puncher's chance. He's coming off a TKO win, but before that he was on a 3 fight losing streak, and he's lost 4 times by submission. And I think there's a very clear path to victory for Steve Erceg to win by submission in this fight. Because if you don't know much about Steve Erceg, he got pretty much catapulted. He came in and fought like three fights in the UFC, then got catapulted to a UFC title fight. If I just go back, so yeah, when UFC won, yeah, fought 3 times and then had a title fight, and that's essentially how the flyweight division goes. But you're here to in your career to just to fight, get paid. Yes, he's lost, but he's become such a bigger star now. So him saying yes to those fights is sort of double-edged sword, but it's kind of like, hey, he's a lot more well-known now. He's in a co-main spot. He could have been in a main event spot had he took it, but like he's been able to headline a pay-per-view fight. Like not many fighters can say they got to headline a UFC pay-per-view and fight for a title. So yeah, I think looking at the way it's gone for him, it's kind of like, yes, they're losses, but that's kind of the best case scenario of losses you could have in your career. So he's a former Eternal MMA champion here in Australia, the premier promotion. He went 7-0 from 2019 to 2023. He's coming into his athletic prime. He's 30 years old. He's 12-4. So before that loss to Pantoja, he was 12-1. And his only loss came in his second fight via decision in his pro MMA career. He's had a good amateur career. He went 7-1. So it's he's developed really well, and I think him getting catapulted to a title fight, he didn't look out of place, and I think it came down to that last round, which Pantoja edged out. So yeah, Steve Erceg's done really well so far in the UFC, and I'm very much cheering for my Aussie guy to get this win, either via TKO or submission. Yeah, there's not really too much else to break down in that fight other than if you're in Australia, the main card starts at 9 a.m. and so I'd probably start tuning in at around 10:30 to catch the co-main and main event. Now we move on to what could be the fight of the night. Yes. If I pronounce this right, Ayasmin Lucendo versus Angela Hill. Yes, this is definitely going to be fight of the night. I do not see this going to the judges' scorecard one bit. I see Angela Hill coming in there with that Muay Thai boxing and absolutely flatlining Lucendo. This is going to be a barn burner. Tune in for this fight. These girls are going to get fight of the night. Am I delusional? Absolutely. This will be bonkers. These girls have heat in their hands and they're going to come out swinging, kicking, and I got to say, there's going to be a lot of blood spilled in this fight. I reckon they're going to drop each other and it's going to be 50K bonus for each of them. Fight of the night for sure. Am I being absolutely satirical? Yes. Do I believe what I'm saying? No. But will it happen? Fuck it. Yes. We got to somehow spice up this card and speaking this into existence, getting behind this fight. Is what I got to do to get myself hyped up. So if you if you tune into this fight and then come at me in the comments after and absolutely tear me apart saying I'm absolutely stupid for saying this is going to be fight of the night, or I could hit a fucking 1,000,000 to 1, you know, be right in this and be fight of the night because very much, yeah, this is going like, if I'm logically speaking and not taking the piss, this is going the distance. There's no real heavy hands involved. We're going to see a nice little 3-round pitter-patter fight, and they're going to get the paychecks, and someone's going to win by a split decision. But to have fun with this, and as part of guessing bonuses, I'm putting this as my fight of the night. I will be very much, it's going to be a slow burn, and yeah, tune in to see how delusional and wrong I am about this fight. Okay, what I think will be really fun is Andre Philly versus Christian Rodriguez. Christian Rodriguez, not essentially fraud checked, but Austin Bashi, who fought last week, you know, young guy, up and coming, big prospect, but C-Rod actually beat him. Austin Bashi via decision, and then he lost to Melquizael Costa. And what's interesting is Andre Phil, they're both coming off losses to the same guy in Marquez Costa. Andre Philly, he's been around for a long time. He's 35, he's 24-12. Big booty Latina, Andre Philly. Yes, he loves him. So do I guess. He's 12-11 in the UFC. He's coming off that round 1 guillotine choke to Marquel Acosta. And like I said before, with, you know, jumping guillotines, if you're going to do it in round 1 while you're still dry. If not, position over submission. Don't be jumping gillies from round 2 onwards because they're just going to slip out. And Costa did that. And like, you know, if you're getting submitted via guillotine these days, that's not a good look to lose via guillotine because it's easy to get a hold of, but it's also easy to get out of. Like even look at Habib with Dustin. Like Dustin jumped it. You know, everyone thought Habib, it was in tight, but like Habib was safe the whole time, and you know, you're just waiting for their arms to gas out. He was breathing he was breathing so well. He had bloody I just had a mind blank for metaphorically speaking. You know, Habib was, you know, his lungs couldn't have been fresher in that guillotine choke that he was sort of locked in. But yeah, this fight, you know, I think we're going to maybe see a knockout or knock out each other. It's going to be nice and back and forth with Andre Philly and C-Rod, so that's going to be a fun fight. Moving down the card, there's nothing really poking out. Let me know what you guys are keen for in this fight night, but Uros Medic versus Gilbert Urbina. Initially, that was going to be my fight of the night until I went on the fuck it Angela Hill run to make that fight of the night. But Uros Medic, he's kind of kill or be killed. He's 4-3 in the UFC, 8 wins by KO. Um, he's coming off a loss. He got finished in the first round within 30 seconds. Um, so yeah, and Urbina, man, this guy can take a shot, I tell you. He's 7-3, very much just head down. Coming off that loss to Charles Radke, round one, left hook. Um, yeah, he's been a bit up and down, but he's a tough guy and can take some damage. So I think that's going to be a fun fight. But yeah, other than that, Cody Brundage, I think that his fight's going to end in a no contest again. Cody Brundage is always mixed up in weird endings. His recent fight got overturned to a draw against Mansour Abdul Malik because there was like a headbutt that led to him getting finished because he lost by a technical knockout or technical decision originally or something, and then he got it overturned. Um, where was that fight? By the Athletic Commission. I think it was Atlanta. Um, yeah, in Georgia on that Atlanta card. Um, yeah, overturned reason. No incomplete rounds should be scored per Georgia rules. Um, yeah, so he's always been in weird fights, Cody Brundage. I'm sure if you followed along, um, like he got a no contest against Abdul Razak Alhassan. I think that was an accidental. What was that for? I forget, but yeah, he's always in weird situations, Cody Brundage. But yeah, he kicks off the card. But yeah, I'm not. There's nothing too. Um, yeah, there's nothing too really much else to break down in this card. Again, UFC meeting their quotas with ESPN with their 40, 45 fights, 45 events a year they got to do. So this is just again like a preliminary to next week's fight. Because that's what I'm going to be, that's what we're all keen for, and what I'll be really keen to go more in depth in for next week's card with Hamzat DDP. Lots to talk about there. But yeah, I think we'll move into a rankings update. So every Tuesday or whatever it is after the UFC events, the rankings come out. There wasn't too much changes. We had Tatsu Tara move up to from 6 to 5 in the flyweight division, took over KKF. What else we got? Yeah, since Martin Badai got removed from, or cut from the UFC, we had a couple of heavyweights. So Volta Walker, the heel hook king, is now off top. Is now 14th ranked in the heavyweight division. And women's bantamweight, we got Cara Rosa moves up to 9. Yana Santos moves down to 10. So yeah, not a whole lot ranking wise has changed. And like again, this event, not a whole lot of rankings movement will happen. Like because if Fluffy Hernandez beats Roman Dolidze, he's going to go from 10 to 9. So yeah, so I'm just going to hold your hand, guys, to get through this week. We're just going to get through this week. It's going to be all right. Like the prelims here in Australia start at, I think it's like 6 a.m. So I'm not even watching the prelims. I'm going to just wake up, watch the main card, and then just rewatch the prelims, not live. Like I was saying last week, so many ads watching on KO, so I watch it on Fight Pass. But again, don't need to be listening to all the broadcast stuff in between fights, and yeah, just don't need to be wasting time watching the whole entire broadcast. But yeah, the 6 a.m. prelims start here, so like it's gonna be perfect. Wake up, watch the main card. and then go back prelims, watch them, skip through all the BS, and do the review. But in other news, talking about ESPN, um, before I get to ESPN, I want to talk about the $62 million high school stadium that got built in, I believe it was Georgia. $62 million high school football stadium. Just going to get some more info around it. Like, how crazy is that? Imagine your high school getting like I think it was like sits 10,000 people. Um, and it's not the first one they've done in America. And it's just like, whoa, like, instant first thoughts. Like I listened to Joe Pompliano, a real prominent figure in the sport business world, talking about these things. Really good listen to his podcast, talking about it. And like, apparently, economically speaking, long term, it's going to be good because I think they might get media rights deals, sponsorship deals, sponsoring the stadium, ticket sales and all that, and the ripple effects from it. But like short term, like isn't there like an educational problem in the UFC? Aren't obviously teachers are always underpaid, and it's like, yeah, I do see the long term effects of it, but and using sport can be a good way to get revenue and build up your school or business or whatever. But geez, 62 million high school stadium, high school. Like you got kids playing in this. It's crazy. So yeah, here we go. Buford High School in Georgia has opened a new state-of-the-art high school stadium and looks nicer than many college NFL stadiums. Um, yeah, that's insane. Here we go. So the Buford High School has officially opened a $62 million stadium that has 10,000 seats, 15 luxury suites, a 3,500 square foot scoreboard, and two-story field house. Like, imagine being like 14, 15 years old, you're in high school, and then you're playing in this 10,000 seat stadium with like luxury suites, and you got the parents up there, and it's probably it'll get televised or something, and start them young, they say, because by the time they're in NFL and they're playing in 80,000 seat stadiums, they're just like, oh, this is nothing, I guess, but crazy. We keep reading this from Sport Illustrated. Compare that to Northwestern's most expensive college football stadium of all time at $862 million as of now, but could climb to over $1 billion. Yeah, like they're saying it's nicer than some college football stadiums. So like, it's insane. Like, go and search this up. I'm just looking at a video now of this stadium. Like, state of the art, brand new, and like these kids are just in high school. Like, how does that work? Because like, obviously the NCAA has been a massive rort in making money off athletes. Like, how does this go for the kids going to school? Are they getting free education if they're in the football team? Like, because the revenue is being made off obviously them playing. Without football and them playing, they don't build this. So I mean, talk about, I really want to go to America and go visit a lot of stadiums and sports. College was on my list, NFL, NBA, MLB, and as well as going to UFC events and regional MMA promotions. But high school looks to be on the list now. Going to a high school game. Wow, like this is Friday Night Lights on steroids, if you like, because I was watching it over the past few years, just watching the series. Yeah, it's pretty long. It's a pretty long series to get through. Haven't finished it yet, but Friday Night Lights, like looks like it's going to be that on steroids. So yes, was it $62 million stadium for high school kids? insane. All right. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts about that $62 million stadium. Do you find that economically viable? Obviously, looking long term, the positives of it, but in the short term, there's big things at play. Getting, they say with the schools all good, the students have everything they need, but what about the teachers, trying to pay their mortgage or whatever? Geez, yeah, America, you guys are definitely different. Yeah, that you'd never see that in Australia. In Australia, our high school and university sport is like non-existent. Anyone can go sign up and play for the university. It's not even affiliated really. Like the students play like social sport through the uni, but as far as like proper teams, there's nothing. High school, um, pretty much they play like a midweek game at night, like the first grade team if you're in high school, but there's no news about it. There's no real hype around it. There's, no Friday night lights vibe around it. Like it's non-existent here. It's not until you only get to the professional stage where you get to play in a stadium essentially. So yeah, America, I guess when you got over 300 million people, there's a market for it and there's money for it. But I got to say, those polls, not to get all political, but those, what's going down at those council political, politician meetings to get that pushed through. Geez, got to be some dirty stuff happening. But back to the ESPN. So ESPN signed a hallmark deal with the NFL, a first ever where they are getting the media rights, network right, getting the rights to Red Zone from NFL, and also a 10% equity stake they are giving up. So I'm just going to read this here from ESPN. Is acquiring the NFL network and other National Football League media assets, including their linear rights to the league's popular Red Zone channel, in a deal that will see NFL get a 10% equity stake in the network. So ESPN making moves. They are making moves because the sports media rights. There's a lot been happening. So that was announced a couple of days ago. So NFL are giving up, their media rights, but they're getting 10% equity stake in ESPN. And I don't think they would do that unless they knew ESPN were going to be long term, going to be, reining it in, which leads me into how this effects and how this sees me guessing like how the UFC comes into this, because just last night WWE and ESPN just reached a deal, and as you know, WWE is part of the TKO group, which UFC are, so they are a family. So let's see what the deal was. So they reached a landmark rights agreement deal with ESPN. So WWE will be exclusive to the US domestic audience. So let me say that. So ESPN platforms become exclusive US domestic home of all WWE premium live events, including WrestleMania. So starting in 2026. So ESPN are getting not necessarily, they're getting a full exclusive deal on the domestic, US domestic market. So I'm guessing the international markets like myself here in Australia will still be on Netflix, I assume. But as far as like if you're in USA to watch it, you got to watch it through ESPN. And if WWE are going to be doing that with ESPN, I assume UFC will be working out something with ESPN. And which brings me back to NFL. I reckon they're in and around what's happening with TKO Group and what they're doing with ESPN. So if they're hearing that WWE were going to be making some sort of deal like that, and potentially UFC would be, I think that gives them reason why they gave up why they gave up, Red Zone, gave it exclusively to ESPN, because they see the benefits of getting a 10% equity stake in ESPN because they're splurging on live sports at the moment, and I think NFL are banking on that to profit with UFC and WWE. So I very much now see UFC's, having almost been exclusive to ESPN still. Could they see something with Netflix? Yeah, potentially. Maybe Apex cards maybe might go to Netflix, who knows? But as far as pay-per-view model, we might still see that stay around, maybe not. But yeah, big ESPN, slinging their dick around, buying up some big assets in the sport media rights at the moment. NFL is, one of the biggest when it comes to media rights deal because that's where most of their revenue comes from. And for them they would have splurged a lot of money, obviously giving up 10%. But if NFL, that shows big trust and how bullish the NFL are on ESPN for them to give up that much in red zone and media rights deal to then take a 10% equity stake in ESPN means ESPN are cooking, and they see long term ESPN being the forefront of sports broadcasting still because Amazon, Peacock, Netflix, all these streaming sites are coming in trying to take it away. And ESPN, I think they've been cornered in to really splurge in to stay relevant in the sports media rights area. So yeah, bit of stuff outside of the fights to talk about. And yeah, with these Apex cards, I hope this deal that UFC does, which I think will be with ESPN, we see go back to just focus more on, if they want to keep the pay-per-view model. But yeah, all these fights like we're seeing last week and now, I think are essential for the sport for fighters to develop. But as far as I spent 15, 20 minutes barely breaking down the fights. If anything, it's getting very watered down, but entertainment wise, it's not the greatest. But for developing these fighters, it's good that they're putting on these fights. The fighters are getting paid. That's great. But as far as taking the time out and spending your time to watch them, it's not. And it's kind of really now just tune in for the pay-per-view cards, really. And yeah, these fight nights, when they go to Paris or Abu Dhabi and stuff, they try and put on a good fight night card. But even Abu Dhabi wasn't that great. The main event was good, but everything else, Azerbaijan with Roundtree and Khalil, it's very much becoming top-heavy cards for the fight night cards, and then the rest is just, I feel it's just development. And, that's why I'm not too, hating on it. I don't want to be negative towards them putting on this many fights because it's developing great fighters, having these Apex cards. But as far as for the fans like ourselves and viewing them and, if they want to, and giving a fuck about them, there's really a low care factor when it comes to this amount of events. But you don't get these great fighters in the long run if they don't get to develop. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword at the moment with fighting because it's getting super saturated. People are coming, I'm getting pretty desensitized to fights. Fighting is one of the most exciting things, and for people to be constantly bashing on Apex cards and all that just shows you yeah, after a while, things, doing this, same boring thing, it becomes not new, and if it's not new, fresh, or exciting, people get bored as you can see, very easily. Like the fact that people trying to beat the living shit out of each other becomes boring. Just shows you where human nature and where, we are at as people. So that's why I got to give the hats off to WWE. They released their 5 episode doco series on Netflix, Unreal, and it gives you all the behind the scenes, how they put on an event, or what the wrestlers go through, how they produce and create storylines, who how it's all predetermined, and how it's all done, and it's super great to watch. Getting that behind the scenes, because the biggest bash in wrestling is like, oh, it's fake. And it's like, I mean, there's nothing fake about, you know, jumping off the top ropes and landing on someone. Like, it's predetermined, yes, but, you know, I very much appreciate like the athleticism it takes to do what they do, the backflips and the jumping off, what's the elimination chamber, jumping onto tables and everything. It's insane what they do, and it's cool to see the behind the scenes and how they are still able to stay relevant in this predetermined show that they put on. But again, it's like, it's entertainment, it's a show, and they use characters and they use great storylines, and that's like a live movie, essentially, like a live, yeah, it's a live show, but it's like they make great storylines, because I like, people like TV shows and movies, and they like the roller coaster of the emotions of it all. And there was nothing more perfect, and you get to see how John Cena, after all these years, turn heel, and you get those holy shit moments in that. And yeah, I just think like there's a market still for that, roller coaster of storylines, and there kind of always will, because that's just kind of how humans are, and they want to be, they want to fantasize things, and believe in things, and WWE do that really well. So I wonder if UFC will see that, or being now and merged with them, can kind of take their production, um, how they do production, and how they're able to. It's crazy how they promote these stars, like, and promote their wrestlers. Like, they are the best at it. No one does better. Like, how they can just continuously make up things and make new storylines, zig and zag, and still be relevant, with the rest. And they're just doing, it's all predetermined. Like, there's going to be an outcome, and they already know. But to be able to make it feel like you don't know and second guess is super, super insane. Yeah, got to appreciate it. Yeah, let me know what your thoughts about WWE and how it's moving forward. Triple H now is a creative director or whatever. Go watch the Vince McMahon. That guy seems to be an absolute sicko. But where WWE seems like they're moving well with the times, WWE, by giving it behind the curtains and not, trying to deny that it's predetermined. They're leaning into it and showing you like, hey, like, this is actually what it's like, and it's insane how they do it. So yeah, let me know if you're a fan of WWE, and yeah, if you think WWE, what it what it will look like, what their landscape will look like in the future. Because yeah, it seems like they're thriving. They're going around the world selling out, no problems. They know how to create stars, and I think UFC need to take something from them. But yeah, so yeah, that's Vegas 109 preview. Let me know in the comments your main event prediction. I got Hernandez round 4-5 TKO, Steve Erceg submission. Yeah, let me know if you think UFC will re-sign with ESPN, and if you've yeah, think the $62 million stadium is an absolute joke, punch in the face to teachers. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the review. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and what you want to see more of, less of. Give me any critiques. But yeah, just enjoyed talking about the fights and yeah, all the landscape of the sport business world. So yeah, have a good weekend, guys. Enjoy the fights if you are watching them. But I'll see you guys in the review. Have a good day.